Video.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Independence Day. Shout out, big up Jamaica. Don't know, right? 60 plus years ago, Jamaica got independence, right? Allowing us to have sovereignty, allowing us to have some governance, yet geopolitics still play a big role. Some people ask, Justin, why is that important to a state rep race? There are more native-born Jamaicans outside of Jamaica than inside of Jamaica, right? So as a diasporic people, being Jamaicans, right, it's actually important because, right, 40% of Jamaica's GDP is people like me sending money back home, right, to float the country. So it's really important. And there's a lot of Jamaicans here in New Haven, a lot of Jamaicans here in Hartford. A lot of us came here post-World War II to fill jobs in the midst of World War II. Right? And so a lot of the black wealth, a lot of the black people here in Connecticut, that population is Afro-Caribbeans like myself. So very important. Also happens to be the anniversary of the Voting Rights Act, right? 62 years ago. Right? My mom is 70 plus, right? I ain't gonna out her how old mama is, right? But mom is 70 plus, right? My father is 85 years young. Right? His father did sharecropping in North Carolina, right? So to me, right, as a first-gen American, the majority of people in my family have never had the opportunity to vote. And once they did, right, again, 3 of my relatives were deported by the time I was 11. A lot of us, the criminal injustice system has made and found ways, right? The Southern Nixon strategy has found ways to disenfranchise us, to the point where we have black and brown people on the Supreme Court talking about racism is over while participating in structural institutional racism, right? It's important to vote. People have died for the opportunity to vote. People are, right, whether you engage in politics or not, politics will be done to you. So I want to break it down for y'all, right? To vote, right, you only need 2 pieces of mail, right, with your name and address on them, right? So I have that. Another option you can use is to have an ID, right? Y'all need to know that I'm O negative, but right? But then you have the Elm City card, right? New Haven has a municipal ID, right? And so to vote, you need to be a U.S. citizen, right? And you need to live where you say you are voting. But if you do not have either of those forms of IDs, you can sign an affidavit swearing and attesting you are who you are, right? And make sure you can vote, right? Early voting today through Sunday, right? Today, polls opened 8 a.m., will close 8 p.m. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Election day is Tuesday, right? 6 a.m. polls open, 8 p.m. polls close. If you are in line, you have the right and opportunity to vote. If you're in line at 8 p.m., no one can disenfranchise your voice or vote. I came into electoral politics as a community organizer. I was a plaintiff against the state in a prison gerrymandering case where we were counting black and brown bodies, right, as if they could vote when they could not because they were disenfranchised because they were incarcerated. There's only 2 states in this country where you're allowed to vote if you have a conviction or actively are in prison. They happen to be states that have mostly white people. So, right, when it came about in 2019 that we started this case, it went through the state court, went through the state superior court, went to the Second Circuit Court. Eli's grandfather used to be on the Second Circuit Court. I happen to be a plaintiff in the Thurgood Marshall Court, which is the Second Circuit Court. And we sued the federal government and said, hey, if prisoners do not have the right to vote, it is disingenuous to count their bodies for drawing political maps, because that sounds like the Connecticut Compromise, the 3/5 clause, right? And I was cute because I was like, Abdul represented the 3rd, I represented the 5th, right? So from the 3rd to the 5th, we don't have any compromise. right? And so then Kavanaugh got appointed, a Yale alum. And so that's where the story was supposed to end. But then I started organizing across the state, talking to our neighbors in Cheshire, talking to our neighbors in the Quiet Corner and saying, does it seem fair that we are counting black and brown bodies in places they're not from? Which added almost a whole entire state reps district worth of people to New Haven alone, let alone talking about the other municipalities, cities that have black and brown people. So voting is important. It has consequences. Representation is important. The district I am running in is it has almost 70+% people of color, right? Yet, since its inception being drawn in the 70s, has never had a black person represented. The only 2 black congressional people in the state of Connecticut was one, a black Republican who went to Yale in the congressional 5th district, the second whitest district in the state. And then you had Jahana Hayes after Elizabeth Espy fumbled the ball by protecting a staff member who was sexually harassing and assaulting people. Then we gave it to a black woman, but she had to literally be the teacher of the year in the nation to be able to get the opportunity to represent us, right? Representation matters, and it's not because we can skin deep. Representation matters because lived experience is part of knowledge production. So we need more people to run. Elections happen all the time. This is the Democratic primary. There's 3 candidates. I urge y'all to come out and vote. I don't care who you vote for, but we need to make it clear to these institutions that more people need to be involved in the process and that they need to be accountable to us. So that is my $22.50 because inflation is high. I'm gonna go in and early vote.
Why are you voting early instead of on primary day?
I mean, as a suburban legislator, right now, okay. as someone who grew up on the border of Hampden and New Haven, right? Hampden had one of the highest early voting participation, right? So to me, communities that people cross borders all the time. New Haven is the cultural capital of our state. It's weird that the 3rd largest municipality in the state doesn't have great numbers in terms of participation, and that's partly because we have literally 7 buildings in this district where hundreds of people, right, are eligible to vote, are most likely going to vote for Democrats, yet I'll go into those buildings and only 4 people are registered Dems, or only 10 people are registered Dems and unaffiliated voters, right? So we need to show people there are more ways to vote, and if the Democratic Party won't have open primaries, if the Democratic Party isn't going to push for election day to be a holiday, right, then we have to educate people that there are opportunities to vote outside of election day so that everybody understands that they don't have to choose between putting food on the table and exercising the right to vote.
And then you can vote in 2 races today.
Yeah.
One is yours.
Yep.
I take it you're going to vote for you in the
Yep.
92nd district. What about in the gubernatorial primary between Ned Lamont and Josh Elliott?
Yeah, my general rule is I do not work harder for anybody that doesn't work harder for themselves than I would for them. Neither campaign has reached out for my endorsement. And so, as one of the most prominent black officials in New Haven County, cool, if you don't feel that you need to engage, I will work with you if I get the opportunity to, or I will work around you or against you, right? If you're messing up issues that hurt working families. But I'm not going to endorse anybody if they don't have the patience, time to sit down and be in committee. So in the past, I've endorsed Chris Matty, right? But he had a whole 2-hour conversation with me, right? Past, I had Susan, right? Susan sat down on my porch on Butler Street, right? Where pistol wave in New Haven became a moniker because there's so much gun violence, where my home was shot up 4 years ago, right? If people want to engage with me, a person who has brought out hundreds of people to get engaged in the political process, mostly young people, they know where to find me. It's not hard to find me, but if they do not want to engage, I don't owe them anything, right? They owe me a future. We owe the youth the future. So if they don't feel it's important for them to reach out to be engaged with young people putting in work. Right? I don't have a million, I don't have a billion. So it's equally the same to me.
I want to get in, but I don't want to dwell on this. But does that mean, so are you not going to vote in the gubernatorial primary, or you just don't want to say who you're going to support? Like in terms of who you, Justin Farmer, will actually be voting for?
I plead the 92nd.
All right.